Good morning. Thank you all for coming today. It's an exciting day. Again, I'm an alumnus of the school. I graduated from the lower school in 1986, and I'm very happy to be here today to speak to all of you and hopefully moderate a very interesting discussion with an interesting young lady. I'm a parent at the school. I have 3 children at the school, lower, middle, and upper, Kent, Kate, and Reed. And I know we have some of them in the room today. And I'm excited also to see them in the room and hear this interesting opportunity. And most relevant to today is I've had my toes in the water since I was a little child. I'm an avid surfer. I swim in the ocean, and it means a lot to me and my family and our neighbors and our close friends to staying in the Florida lifestyle and in the water. So, today you're going to have one of the most inspirational athletes in the world speaking to you, and her name is Bethany Hamilton. I'm just going to give you a little brief intro about Bethany. She is an athlete, she's an author, she's an actor, and she's a motivational speaker. She's really going to talk to you today about overcoming challenges and obstacles in her life, and many of you know her story. She's born in Kauai, Hawaii. She currently lives there with her husband, Adam, who's joined us today. She was, from growing up, one of the top-ranked women surfers in the United States. Many of you know this story. When she was 13, she was tragically bitten by a tiger shark and lost her left arm. Miraculously, after that, 1 month later, she was back in the ocean swimming. 2 years after that traumatic event, she actually won the women's NSA championship in the United States for surfing. Since that time, she's had a very active and enduring professional surfer career. And just this last year, in Pipeline, Hawaii, the Bonsai Pipeline, a very difficult wave, she won the Women's Pipe Pro. Her story's been profiled around the world. She's numerous speaker engagements, documentaries written about her. Many of you have seen a movie that was produced 2011 called Soul Surfer that told the story of Bethany. We'll talk about that today. She's done cameo appearances. Most recently in the movie, she was in the movie Dolphin Tale 2. She's been profiled on ESPN. She was part of the CBS Amazing Race this past year with her husband. She's written over 6 books. She has a most recent book out called Body and Soul, which we'll talk about today. And she's involved in numerous charitable events, including her own foundation, Friends of Bethany. She's traveled the world surfing, competing, and sharing her message of inspiration. What we're going to do today, real briefly, is we're going to show a short video about Bethany. She's going to come up and do a keynote address for about 15 minutes. She and I are going to have a fireside chat here for about 10 or 15 minutes. But the bulk of what we're going to do today, about 40 minutes, is we're going to open it up a Q&A session to the students. We have 4 mic runners in the room today, and we're going to disperse the questions throughout the room. And we're excited to do that. Now, I have a favor to ask of everyone here. Bethany does not like to talk about the shark bite accident. It's well written about in her book, and as you can understand, it's just an event she doesn't want to talk about. So everything else she's happy to talk about, and we're going to do that. So I just ask that you refrain from questions about that. And with that, we have a short video to show you.
Did you ever for one moment think you wouldn't go back?
Once things came clear in my mind, I knew I'd be back.
And sometimes it's good to surprise people.
Bethany Hamilton!
Most people would see this as such a horrible thing, but I see all the beauty and good that God has brought out of it, and it's just incredible how He can turn things that we don't understand into good. Move this a little closer. Aloha. Well, we all have obstacles in life to overcome, whether that's death of a loved one, disease, cramming for finals, or like myself becoming a parent, or even the loss of a limb. I believe our passions can give us the hope and drive to overcome. My passions began early in life. I can't even remember when I started surfing, but surfing, which is one of my greatest passions, I started probably when I was about a toddler, and I was just hooked. I grew up waking up every day thinking, I wonder how the surf is, like, can't wait to go surfing later. And I just breathed salt water. I loved the feeling of taking off on a wave and riding it all the way to the shore. And, as I was growing into becoming Bethany, I knew that surfing was what I wanted to do with my life. And I bet you could ask me at age 8, what am I going to be when I'm older? And I knew that I was going to be a professional surfer. So as I kind of dug into this passion, I worked really hard as a young girl, and thankfully I had the support of my family. My parents really encouraged me because they understood my passion for surfing, and they had the same love for the ocean and riding waves. So they took the time every day to get me to the beach and take me to work with my surf coach. And yeah, I feel really blessed with how invested they were in my life. And I look back now and I know that a lot of my peers didn't have that same support that I had. And I think that kind of gave me a little bit of an edge. And so as I'm growing, I'm starting to get into competing and really just loving doing contests and winning a lot of events. And the summer of 2013, I think it was, when I was 13 years old, I went to the National Scholastic Surfing Association Championship Finals, and competing against seniors in high school, being 13 years old, I finished second in the finals, which was huge. And this was kind of like a realization of, whoa, I could really go far with surfing, and especially competing against the older girls and doing well and holding my ground. So for me, surfing was more than just a sport or something I enjoyed doing and passing the time with. It was something that I couldn't live without. But I also knew that surfing couldn't fulfill my life like I wanted it to. And I'm thankful that my parents encouraged me in my faith in God, which is my second greatest passion in life. And having my faith kind of kept me grounded and kept me level-headed and kept me trusting that God has a future and a plan for my life. And I knew that I didn't want to just surf. I wanted to honor God with my life and make healthy decisions growing up into my teenage years and eventually an adult. So surfing on Kauai, oh my gosh. Well, Adam and I went swimming down here at the beach, and the water is really clear and nice and warm, and it felt so lovely yesterday getting in the water. And we've been on the road for the last couple of weeks, so we haven't been in the ocean as much. But surfing in Hawaii is similar to the ocean here. It's really warm and beautiful and clear. And I remember just about every morning I'd get up, and I started homeschooling in junior high, so I'd get up and go surf first thing and then get home and do school after. So like any other day, I'm paddling out with my best friend Alana and her dad and brother, and it's absolutely gorgeous out. And I remember racing her brother. Her and I would race her brother out and see who could paddle the fastest. And I always was really determined to win. I think I was the first one out. But I'm out there surfing, and I have my whole future ahead of me. And then the next minute, my arm is gone, and I'm fighting for my life. And I remember just paddling into the shore that day, and I don't know if I'm going to live. I'm just trying to stay alert and awake and trust that God's going to get me through this. And I managed to survive, and I believe it was somewhat of a miracle because I lost over 60% of my blood, and it's just kind of crazy. It's one of those things that that surfers think of, but they don't actually think it's going to happen to us. So this is the start of a whole new life, a huge obstacle that I had to overcome, as we all have obstacles in life to overcome. And I think that I look back on first being in the hospital and kind of reflecting on my life at the age of 13 and not having like an insecure future, not knowing where my life is going to be going. But I trusted that God was going to take care of me and guide me through this. And I was laying in the hospital room one day, and my older brother's friend who had lost his leg to a shark came in and talked to me, and he shared with me that he actually learned how to surf with one leg after he lost his leg. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And I think when we go through obstacles, to talk with other people about what we're going through, and just being able to talk with this guy who had been through something similar to myself and had been able to overcome and do great things with his life. Today, he's an incredible photographer, and he's like getting barreled left and right. If you have heard of him, you might have heard of him. His name is Coots. Look him up on Instagram. His photos are amazing. But having someone to kind of talk to about like what I'm going through and like this huge struggle that's all of a sudden been put on my life was huge. And on top of that, having my family there to support me. And I know that I could not have gotten through all that I've been through without them. So I encourage you guys, like, as you're going into your future and you're picking your college and you're maybe you're having doubts about your future or doubts about yourself and your ability, or your family is going through a really hard time, I encourage you to seek out people to help you get through these different struggles, and it's going to make the world a difference, as it has in my life. Struggles that I faced aside from like diving into life with one arm and waking up and not being able to put my hair up or tie my bikini was like such a struggle. And I was always like such an independent girl, and I loved just kind of doing things on my own. I rarely asked my mom to like do things for me. So all of a sudden, like being faced with like, oh, how do I get my hair up? Which I now can put my hair in a ponytail, which is an accomplishment in my mind. But tying shoes wasn't a big deal because I'm mostly barefoot or in slippers. But I guess once I started going to the gym more, then I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to tie my shoe. And eventually figured it out with a little practice and perseverance. And then learning how to surf with one arm. After talking with Mike Coots, I was like, okay, I'm getting back in the ocean. I don't care what anyone thinks. And I think just having that kind of attitude of like, I'm just got to try. I got to give it a go. Maybe I won't be able to surf with one arm, but I'm still going to at least get out there and try. And less than a month later, I was out surfing. I remember paddling out that day, and all my best friends were down at the beach because we had our girls surf team, our weekly girls surf team, and then my whole family came down to cheer me on. And I remember just like walking down with the surfboard and kind of having that uncertainty and doubt. But it wasn't enough to stop me from going. And of course, there's the lingering fear of sharks. But to me, I was more scared of losing this thing that I was so passionate and determined to spend my life doing than of what might be underneath the water's surface. And so I paddled out that day, and first 2 waves, I popped up like I normally would, but I just like fell off the board and felt awkward and kind of like discouraged. And then my dad's like, here, let me help you. Let me help you just get into a wave. I was like, no, Dad, I don't want your help. But he helped me anyway by giving me a verbal tip of try put your hand in the center of the board, because now that you have one arm, you can't just do things how you used to. You got to adapt and adjust. And whether we have one arm or not, because most of you are all normal or four-limbed, awkward. I think sometimes, like, when we're struggling with different things, we have to be adaptable and be able to adjust and, like, make changes in our plan of action. And, like, for me, it was just something as simple as moving my hand from the side of the board to putting my hand in the center. And I think as you're going through rough, challenging times, to, like, kind of think of how you're approaching it and if there's a way that you can better do it, or ask someone for help if you're just totally clueless and you don't know which direction to go or how to approach the different situation that you're struggling with, or if you're like fighting with a family member or a good friend, or I think it's so essential just to cling to the people that can help us get through these different things. And so that third wave, I put my hand in the center of the board and I pop right up and ride it all the way to the beach. And I just had the best feeling of accomplishment, tears of joy running down my face, and just so stoked to be back in the ocean and surfing. And that was kind of just the start of my journey of eventually today becoming a professional surfer. And, you know, it was such an incredible journey, and I feel so grateful and blessed to have the talent and skill, but also the drive to have accomplished and come to where I am at today. And I'm not saying it was easy. There was really rough days, and, you know, days I'd paddle out and I like couldn't even get out past the waves because it was so like challenging and frustrating adjusting to one arm. But today, I love surfing big waves and traveling all over the world and surfing some of the most amazing waves the world has to offer. And it feels just like amazing to have overcome the different obstacles that I've overcome. And so I encourage all of you, when you face different obstacles in life, I challenge you to cling to the things that you're passionate about and know that those are the things that are going to drive you and help you overcome. And, you know, cling to the things that are healthy in your life, that are uplifting, and find people to surround you and be your support system. I mean, going to this school, I know you have a lot of support system in your schooling, so it's pretty awesome. I encourage you to be thankful for that. But yeah, thank you so much.
Start off with the baby and your family. So we have her husband, Adam, here, who's a Christian youth minister. Okay. Why don't you tell us everything that you can tell us about the baby?
Yeah, so baby is a boy, so we're pretty excited. Adam and I found out about 6 months ago, and we're 7 months along now, so pretty shockingly amazing. We weren't really planning on having kids this soon, so it's kind of been an obstacle to overcome, I'd say. But we're so excited to be parents, and it's something I've always looked forward to. So, yeah, and especially my husband, I'm so thankful for him and how he treats me, and I know he'll be a good dad. So
Terrific. And I know your husband surfs too, so the child has good DNA to get in the water?
Yeah, my husband's a great athlete, and yeah, Junior's been having a lot of fun surfing with me.
Right.
Sometimes I feel him wiggling. It's a little weird.
If you all want, go on YouTube. I think you've been surfing through the whole pregnancy, and there's some amazing pictures of Bethany actually surfing while she's pregnant and doing a very good job at it, too. Yeah, well, why don't you just walk us through a day in the life of Bethany Hamilton and what you typically do on average?
Yeah, day in the life for me is kind of all over the place, but when I'm home, it's pretty simple, just waking up, and I enjoy eating healthy, so usually having like a green shake or scrambled eggs and veggies, and going from there, or we usually have a little coffee too. We have a really nice espresso machine, so we're like atoms in the kitchen getting my coffee ready. And I usually go and get in the ocean, and from there I'll work out, or I don't know, each day holds something different, I guess. If the waves are really good, I'm usually in the water a lot, like up to 6 or 8 hours if it's pumping. And yeah, I don't know. Sometimes hang out with my family. They all live in the same town as us, so that, and I have a couple dogs, take them on a walk, and yeah.
And you spend a lot of time, obviously, on the road traveling and speaking to
Yeah,
people.
so day in the life is kind of all over the place, but like the last couple weeks, Adam and I have been almost in a different hotel every night or two. We've been traveling. We were in California, and then we went to Texas, and then Louisiana, and now we're here in Florida. And then we're here in Florida for a few more days. Then we're stopping in Nashville on our way home, and then we're going home, so.
Great. What are the plans with your surfing career post-baby being born?
Yeah, so when we found out I was pregnant, I was like, oh, dang, like, I just want to surf. And and so I've been working on a surf film called Surf Like a Girl, and my passion behind this project was to kind of highlight my surfing ability and show people like how my career has evolved, and it's been a lot of fun this far. And I did a Kickstarter campaign to raise funds for it, and we were like, okay, are we still gonna do this film? And it took me a lot of thinking because I was totally doubting and not sure, but I'm still gonna surf after baby comes, and I still wanna progress and get better and better, so I figured just document it along the way. So definitely still working on Surf Like a Girl, and that's kind of like where I'm focusing for my surfing career. And I'll do a few contests here and there, the ones that like really appeal to me as far as location of the wave. And I mean, if you guys have watched any surf contests, a lot of the waves are kind of so-so, and some are really good. So I kind of like am lucky to be able to just surf good waves for my career.
Right. Why don't you tell us some of your favorite places to surf besides pine trees at home?
Yeah, well, I love surfing in Tahiti. I've been to Tahiti maybe 5 or 6 times now. And one of my first trips to Tahiti, I was actually filming stunt doubles for Soul Surfer. So I remember just getting the most amazing waves, and Tahiti is similar to Hawaii. Has anyone here been to Hawaii? A few, so you kind of have a vibe of Hawaii. And Tahiti is like Hawaii, but maybe in the 60s. It's like way kind of behind time. So I like that feeling of just kind of like having a hard time finding internet and just cruising and surfing.
Right. Instagram, I know you're very active on Instagram. How many people in the room have 1 million followers on Instagram? Does
Not
anyone?
quite there yet.
She's
but
very close to 1 million followers. I was just explained, one of our friends had me join Instagram, and it's cool if you are following less people than follow you. So
You're
and I know
catching on fast, huh?
real quick. So check out Bethany's Instagram at Bethany Hamilton. Right?
Yeah.
And you're very active in posting on it. I was looking at yesterday. So let's transition into sort of inspiration and all that. What about unfulfilled dreams? Like, what is in the back of your mind that you haven't accomplished that you'd like to?
I mean, like, immediate unfulfilled dreams, like, I'm really wanting to do the best I can with this surf film and kind of come out with one of the best female performance segments ever made. So that's kind of like a lofty goal. All the girls are surfing amazing right now. It's so fun to be a part of such a talented generation of female surfers. And beyond that, I mean, I'll always be striving to be a loving, kind wife to my husband. And then now we're becoming parents, so like taking that role of being a parent to me is really, I take it really serious, and I want to be like the best mom I can be. And I think like I keep hearing like, you really realize how selfish you are once you become a parent. And so I'm kind of like just kind of looking forward to adjusting to that role and kind of letting go of some of myself and just being a mom.
Great. A little bit on inspiration. So you got back in the water 3.5 weeks after this, which is just truly amazing and brave. What really motivated you to get back in the water?
I mean, to me, it's like I was sharing how passionate and I am about surfing. Like, I believe that even if I hadn't talked to someone who had lost his leg and learned how to surf after his attack, I think I would have mustered up my own determination to get back out there on my own, just because I love the ocean and I love being on waves. And to me, I was more scared of losing surfing than of losing, or than of sharks being in the ocean. And so I think as I kind of got back, as I started to get back into surfing, and just from the very first wave, it was kind of like the start of my career going back in the direction it was already heading. Right. Just a little more challenging with one arm, so your biggest fear was probably not getting back in the water, rather than what was in the water? Yeah, my fear was of not surfing rather than of sharks. Right. I mean, of course, I had that somewhat fear of sharks, and I had to overcome that. I started off surfing like closer to shore beach breaks, but in Hawaii, like the best waves are often out on reefs where you're out further. And so I started getting back out in the reefs, and there's still that like constant like fear of like, as I'm paddling and like you're super aware. I think I became even more aware of my surroundings once I was surfing after the loss of my arm, and like being aware of like what's underneath and like looking at shadows, which were usually my own shadows. Let's talk a little bit about Soul Surfer. I mean, many people in this room have seen it, and it's a fantastic movie. So for those that don't know, she wrote an autobiography in 2004 called Soul Surfer. It was made into a movie in 2011. What was your role in the movie? And, just on the other side of it, really, what are your feelings towards the movie and what it's done for youth in America? Yeah, so Soul Surfer, the movie, I'm so happy with it. My whole family and I were proud to share it with others once we were finished. And going into it, we weren't so sure, because teaming up with Hollywood is pretty challenging, especially coming from our background of just knowing nothing about filmmaking and what all goes into it. So having written the book, I just started learning about kind of telling your story. And when we first started working on Soul Surfer, it took forever to actually get from the initial start to filming. I think it was at least 3 or 4 years. And I remember meeting the director. And the director was so awesome. I instantly loved him, and I knew that I really hoped we would work with him. And the first thing he asked me is like, is there anyone you would want to play you? I'm like, oh, I have no clue who I'd want to play me. Like, imagine picking out someone to play you in a film, and you're still alive living your life, like 15 years old at that point, or maybe a little older. And but I actually ended up picking the girl who played me. My mom and I started like watching films on young teenage girls and kind of more athletic and girls that were playing positive roles in films. And so Anna Sophia Robb, who played me, was who we chose, and she ended up getting the part. So that was kind of cool to pick out who played me. And I think before filming started, she came out to Hawaii, and my surf coach and I took her out surfing, and I was like, oh my gosh, she like can't even like barely paddle. And she's supposed to be like playing me And at that time, I wasn't like thinking about all the I knew I wanted to do some of my own stunt doubles, but I also wanted her to like look decent on the board so it didn't look so like corny. Like just learn how to sit on the board and we'll be good. Learn how to paddle. And so I would like literally like train her how to paddle the board and like not look like a beginner. If you surf, you can kind of point out people that are beginners like that. Like you just know. And so we got into the whole process of making the film. I remember receiving a few scripts. And we just threw them in the trash because they were so bad. We're like, this is not even our story. Like, did you not listen to everything we just told you? Like, you just came up with something completely different. And then finally, we got the 4th script, I think it was, and it was decent. We're like, okay, we can work with this. But we put a lot of time and effort and got our creative juices flowing, and trying to like take our lingo and put it into the film. And it was just a lot of fun being on set, and my whole family was really involved. My one brother was a camera assistant, so he was literally on each scene filming every day. And my other brother and sister-in-law were co-producers, so they were kind of like playing bulldog with the producers. And they would make sure weird things didn't slip by and creep through the cracks through the filming process. And then I would just kind of hang out and I could go to the director and tell him if I didn't like a scene. I remember we were filming, it's kind of the intro scene of the film where Bethany like goes surfs and then she runs into church like throwing her dress on. And we're filming the church scene and it literally looked like everyone was at the funeral. And so I was like, oh, come on. So I like walked in and just like told everyone, if you don't love God, just pretend you do. And like, don't make this a funeral scene. And so everyone kind of like faked their liveliness and turned it around because I personally like going to church and I have fun. But then from there is the whole just editing process, and I would go in, and I remember the first time I saw the shark attack scene, I was like, oh my gosh, that is like ridiculous. That's way too dramatized. So I like had them tone it down, and yeah, just like there's a lot of little details. I could go on for like another hour, but
Many of us have seen it, and it sounds like it met your expectations in some then.
It did. Like overall, some of the scenes that you might think are false are true, like my dad being in the hospital and then being wheeled out of the room and me literally going into that same room. Like that was a true story, and just crazy stuff like that. But I didn't go night surfing the day before the attack, but I've been night surfing. It wasn't like that big of a deal to me.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about some of the other stuff you're doing. So the book, Body and Soul, you've written several books now. You want to just give us a little bit about what the book is and the thesis?
So Body and Soul, I've had a huge passion for health and fitness and just taking care of myself since started learning about it when I was about 16. And especially taking like a professional athlete approach to it, I really wanted to be able to perform to the best of my ability and feel good each day when I wake up in the morning. And so I wrote this mainly for teenage girls to kind of like make it a fun, easy way to learn about health and incorporate it into our lives. And just like little things like lightening up on sugar, like so much of the drinks, you go to the grocery store, if you go in the like drink aisle, like everything is just loaded with sugar. So just kind of weaning yourself off sugar, and, like incorporating just like lemon or mint water, and just like something aside from sugary drinks to like sweeten up or taste up your water.
Right.
And put in a lot of like health tip or fitness tips, and like I love creating myself to have good posture but be strong at the same time. And posture is so essential for our health. And I love when I watch surfers who surf with like good posture versus kind of like hunchback. Sorry if you have a hunchback, but I love watching surfers with good posture. Like I think they look like all the more better, and so I incorporate a lot of like posture influence into my approach to fitness, and there's a lot of fun things to learn about, but I like feeling good and healthy, and I wanted to share that.
And part of the book's also about gaining confidence also.
Yeah, a lot of it's also encouraging girls in their faith, and kind of, today's society, like you watch TV and you look at magazines, and they're constantly inundating us girls with like this perfect physique that you have to be beautiful. I think that is nonsense, and I just wanted to encourage girls to like focus on just finding healthy ways to be healthier rather than like dwelling on what this culture is telling you to be like. And I think it's so easy to be caught up in like, oh, I gotta be like that girl to be beautiful, or the guys aren't gonna like me unless I'm like this. And so I wanted to like veer girls away from like thinking so much on that, and like just being your natural, beautiful self and focusing on being healthy.
Right, which is a perfect segue into the concept of beautifully flawed. And I know we have a little clip here about Bethany's foundation. Should we roll into Q&A?
Yeah.
All right, great. So what we're going to do, we have 4 mic runners running around the room. We have about 30 minutes before the bell rings. And I'd like to balance the questions with all the grades. We have our seniors sitting in the first grade. So if you could, let's get your name, your age, and address the question. And she prefers that you call her Bethany. So with who has a question? And let's throw a mic runner out there. Go
Hi,
ahead.
Bethany.
Please stand up.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh wait, am I supposed to say my name?
Name, age.
Oh. I'm Ben. I'm a senior.
Hi, Ben.
Hi. Were you initially self-conscious about your injury, and were you embarrassed when people would stare or ask questions about it?
Yeah, I think along with just being a girl and growing into your teenage years and like the awkwardness of that, I definitely had to adjust to like looking in the mirror, and all of a sudden my arm's gone, I look different, I feel different, and I am different. And I think like even myself, when I come across amputees just in public, like you can't help but like glance and like look at them, like it's just a natural thing to do. And for me, it was really hard to adjust to people staring at me or kind of saying odd things sometimes. And so it took some time to like figure that out and be comfortable in my own skin. And if you've seen Soul Surfer, there's the scene where Bethany receives her prosthetic limb. And having such a short, like stumpy, my limb couldn't really do anything useful because of how short I am. So it was purely for looks. And I got the limb and I just felt like even more uncomfortable in it. And I think a lot of amputees will get a limb just to kind of look normal and be like blend in. And I just got the limb and felt even more uncomfortable. So I just decided like, I don't need this. Like I'm too active and going in and out of the ocean. And to me, it felt like it slowed me down. And so slowly but surely, I think like having my family and friends, just the way they treated me like normal and they just loved me as I was, kind of helped me to grow into my own skin and be comfortable with who I am. And so, yeah, I think it was a little bit of an adjustment, but now I'm like fine. And like I have my husband who loves me, and I don't even like think about feeling like uncomfortable about having one arm.
And isn't it also sort of the thesis of your foundation about profiling people that are beautiful but flawed?
Yeah, it's like so many of us, like it's so easy to point out our flaws and our differences and kind of just nitpick like the little things that don't even really matter. But at the end of the day, like when I look at individuals, I'm not like staring down their flaws. I'm like accepting them and appreciating them as they are. And I think that's how we all should kind of approach the different people that we come across in life.
Right, right. All right, let's...
Good question.
Keep going. We'll come back to you. All right, why don't we go up in the front row? Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Sydney. I'm a senior. I was just wondering, and I don't really know the dynamics of like surfing culture or anything, but what your experiences were as a competitive female in like a sports sense and how that's, I don't know, played into your life, and if there's been negative responses or really positive responses.
Like, can you detail a little more? Like, do you mean, like, how was it being a female athlete?
Yeah, basically,
or like
how in like a male-driven field,
yeah.
I guess, how the responses to a competitive and well-known female.
Yeah, I guess I look back at the start of my career, and I started off competing with boys. So I initially was kind of like thrown into surfing with the boys, and I beat a lot of the boys, so that was kind of fun. But then as I got older, I just stuck to the girls, and I started doing the WQS and traveling full-time worldwide competing. And I think I've kind of been blessed to be in a time where women's surfing is really being accepted and appreciated. And I don't even watch the guys surf, I just watch the girls because I think it's so much fun watching the girls. But there's definitely been some frustrating moments within professional surfing where we would be in a different country and they would send out the girls. It'd be a male-female event. They would send out the girls, and the waves started getting good, and they literally, you'll be in a round of maybe 12 heats, and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. they ran 4 heats, and the waves started getting really good, so they stopped the girls and then put the boys out, and that ticked me off. I was like, this is a joke. Like, what are you doing? And I'm not going to say what country I'm in, because it's not worth, like, freaking out about, even though I freaked out at the time. And it was just really frustrating to have stuff like that happen. And I think now we're kind of heading in a better direction. I know there's someone, Dirk, or who was it that I met? Was it Dirk?
Dirk and Natasha.
Yeah, Dirk and
are very
Natasha,
friendly.
they're big fan of the girls surfing, so that's been fun to see. And I think it just takes a lot of like having girls stand up. There's a few girls on the world tour now that will stand up for things that are kind of wrong, and it's kind of refreshing. And I think sometimes as female, I don't know, I don't like to take it to the extreme of feminism, because I think there's some flaws in taking things to the extreme, but to be confident and stand firm in how things should be done fairly.
Great. Do we want to put some questions up the top? Why don't we go up there in the corner?
Hi, my name's Veronica Weiss, and I'm a junior at the Benjamin School.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Why don't we go this way? Why don't you stay?
You go,
Go
for
ahead,
it. You
go
go for
ahead.
it.
Hi, I'm Veronica Weiss. I'm a junior at the Benjamin School. And since your incident occurred, have you ever experienced any negative reception or criticism from anyone in your life trying to discourage you from your dream of surfing?
Yeah, I think initially, like, a lot of people who knew what happened in my story were kind of doubting that I would surf again. Like, some of my good friends, their parents, like, didn't think it was going to happen at all. And even my mom was kind of like, it was kind of, I think it was her way of coping, but she was like, you could try something else, like become a photographer, or we could move and you could get into snowboarding, because we're all really athletically minded. So that was her suggestion, was instead of surfing, try something else. And I think it was hugely just her trying to support me and find something new to strive towards, and kind of take off my mind off of like what I was going through in the moment. Though my dad was kind of the opposite. Like, as soon as I kind of shared that maybe I can surf with one arm, he's like, yeah, let's do it. Like, he's already got his brain thinking on like how I can do things. And, you know, he came up with my handle on my surfboard, which I use to duck dive. So when you're surfing certain waves where it's like constant waves breaking, kind of like sending you back to shore, you take your board and push them underneath the wave, and it's called duck diving for people who really don't know surfing. And so my handle was so I could grab my board and push underneath the wave and duck dive. And my dad was so supportive in figuring that out, and just taking me to contests after he took me to my first surf contest with one arm, and just cheered me on and supported me. And yeah, I think if there was much doubt or criticism, I kind of put a blind eye to it. But I think sometimes when we are facing that, rather than dwell on the criticism or the negative aspect that might be coming your way, to think on like why you're doing what you're doing and why you love what you're doing, and to let that drive you. And if there's people that are supportive, to talk with them more often and let them know that you're dealing with this negative side on a different end, and that you need support to overcome that, or to kind of push past that.
Great, thank you. Why don't we try back up there in the corner?
I'm Colton. I'm a 9th grader. I was just wondering, besides Tahiti, what other places around the world do you like to surf?
Yeah, besides Tahiti, I really love Indonesia. I've probably spent more time in Indonesia than any other country besides the US, which is pretty crazy. And there's a lot of really good waves there, and I love warm water. I'm like warm water lover. I don't like wetsuits or cold water, so I like in Tahiti this last summer, I went with my husband and a filmer we were in Bali and got some fun waves there. And then we went out to the Mentawai Islands and surfed macaronis on a really good swell. It was so fun. I surfed like at least 8 hours in one session, I think, which was kind of a bad mistake because I didn't like drink enough water or eat enough food. And so like I was thrashed by the end of the day. And then the next day I was like, oh, I should have like took care of myself yesterday, because then I surfed another 8 hours the next day. And I was like exhausted at that point. I was probably like lobster orange too, like so sunburned. Where else do I like? I'm such a sucker for Hawaii. I love Hawaii. I've gotten actually really fun waves in Puerto Rico, which is a lot of Floridians go down there. And a few fun sessions in Australia. It's kind of hard to come by there, but you have to be in the right place at the right time. Yeah, so.
Us goofy foots like those lefts, so that's why we don't go to Australia that much.
Yeah, I went to one place I got really fun waves in Australia was Midwest Australia, and I went up to this place called Nauru with my mom, and we actually went to go swim with whale sharks, which was one of the coolest things I've ever done, and it was my mom's dream. And so I was like, Mom, I got a contest down here. Let's go up there after and swim with whale sharks. And we were like the first people to go out in the season of whale shark swimming. And my mom like literally flew off the boat before anyone to like swim with the whales, and it was so amazing. And then after that, we went and surfed way in the boonies, like hours from any kind of civilization, and just got really good laughs and waves, and it was such an adventure, and I thrive on adventures, so.
Why don't we try any other questions up here? Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Jack. And I'm a freshman. I was wondering if there ever was a time where you like lost hope and like thought you'd never be able to surf again.
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
I was wondering if there was a time like where you ever thought you'd never be able to surf again.
Yeah, when I first lost my arm, I had no clue if I'd be able to surf again, and that scared me so much. And I kind of shared my journey of like rethinking that and talking with my Coots and then getting back into the ocean. But once I started surfing, it was like, yeah, there was really rough, hard, frustrating, awful days in the ocean. But I think there was also really amazing, fun, rewarding, like back to doing what I love kind of days. And so I think when the rough days would come my way, I would just kind of just take a break and remember those times when I had like an amazing session of like kind of getting better and better. And in Soul Surfer, they show like the scene of how Bethany starts off on the longboard and then works her way down to the mini tanker and kind of gets back to her shortboard. And that's kind of what I did. So I took it step by step, and it was a bit of a process, but I think we took the right approach on figuring out with one arm. Because if I had tried to like go right on a shortboard, no way I would have been able to do it. There was such a big adjustment in balance and catching waves with one arm and all these different things that I had to figure out and like placing myself in the lineup. Like nowadays, when I surf, it's just natural for me to have late drops. Like I don't take more than 3 strokes to get into a wave. Rarely, if I do, take more than 3. But sometimes I don't even like paddle into the wave. I just like position myself, and then like the wave catches me and I go. It's hard to explain, but that's like in really good, powerful waves. But yeah, I kind of had a confidence that I didn't know about professional surfing, that's for sure, but I knew that I at least would be surfing for my own fun and pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about technique, which I think is an interesting thing. I've had the opportunity to surf on the water with you at Uluwatu, and one of the questions was how does she handle it in a male-dominated world? She exceeds it. With most of the best Balinese surfers in the water, she paddles faster than them, gets better waves, and surfs way better. And you wouldn't expect that. So talk a little bit about technique, size of your board, how you actually paddle for waves and how you stand up.
Yeah. How many surfers do we have here? So a small number, but a few. Well, surfing with one arm, I definitely have changed my whole approach. And for me, it's really important to position myself. So when you're out in the lineup, depending on where the waves break, like I usually position, like if they're gonna break where this blue thing is, I'll be like 5 feet outside of the blue thing, whereas some people might be 15 feet outside of the blue thing, the blue curtain. And so like little things like positioning, I'm like very kind of gotta be right on the spot. And then getting into the wave, I always do this thing where I like push my tail into the water, and then like it kind of propels you, gives you like a head start. It's hard to explain, but you just push your tail underwater, and then like because your board's flotacious, as you release, you go forward and get like a head start in speed, and then I'm paddling and kicking a lot. And then I usually like waves that are more powerful are easier to stand up. Like I surfed in California last week, and I was just borrowing a friend's board, and the waves were so weak, there's no power, and like that makes it harder for one arm pushing up, and you're just all the more effort. Plus being pregnant, I like weigh a bit more, and like my stomach is just like dominating in the way. Move out of the way, baby. No. But and then like there's other things like duck diving. Sometimes I do this thing where if you are on your board in the ocean, you can kind of stand and just balance while you're waiting for waves, and your board's like 3 feet underwater and you're just hanging out. So sometimes when I'm paddling out and it's big, like bigger waves and powerful, I'll stand on my board as the wave's coming, and as it gets like right here, like this close to me, I dive underwater and like grab my board. And this technique works good. I think 2-armed people should use it, because sometimes I'll like go under and I'll come up and like the guy next to me is like long gone, because I'm able to push my board super deep by standing on it. So fun little things like that. Just get creative and have fun. And sometimes I get really pounded and just end up duck diving and swept in and get really frustrated, but every surfer has those moments. So
Right. Why don't we try? Let's go. I'm sorry. Go ahead in the red shirt, right in the middle. Do we have a mic? Thanks, Max.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm a senior, and I was wondering, has your faith in God ever been tested, and how did you overcome that?
yeah, my faith in God has been the thing that's been my greatest strength through all that I've been through. And I think being able to, as you go through times of just like extreme frustration or like down days, rather than like taking strength in myself, which I don't always feel really confident, and I don't always feel like I can do the tasks that I have ahead of me, but I'm able to take hope in God and what He has already done for me. And to me, that's so refreshing, and it's nothing wavering or changing, and it's a confidence that is not going to go anywhere, though I may doubt at times, but God's always there for me and for all of us. And I think, I think there's definitely been like down days, but having my family encourage me in my faith, and my youth leader from my church, Sarah Hill, who's played by Carrie Underwood in the movie, she's been such an amazing woman who's been through so much and been able to just talk to me and remind me of God's love and His plan for my life. And so that's been really encouraging through everything.
Great. Why don't we try front row here?
Hi, my name is Andy. I'm a senior, right? Yeah. And first of all, it's an honor to meet you. And I think, kind of building off what Nicole said, a lot of times when people deal with challenges like yours or any challenge in life, even the most religious ask, why me? What did I do to deserve this God? How did you kind of get over that mentality and get the courage to sort of get back in the water and move on with your life?
Yeah, I think in this world there's so much pain and struggle nowadays, or there always has been, but like you hear stories of young kids getting a disease that like they had no control over, and all of a sudden they're like 8 years old and fighting for their life, and it's kind of like, gosh, God, why would you allow this to happen? But I think God always has like a bigger picture in mind, and after losing my arm, or before losing my arm really, I had like a faith in God that I think was somewhat unique for a 13-year-old girl. And my mom would pray with me every night and encourage me in God's word by reading the Bible to me. And this was really encouraging for me to grow in my faith. And, I was so passionate about surfing, but I also knew that surfing wasn't gonna fulfill my life. And I think oftentimes in life we're like trying to chase different things to fulfill us and make us feel really good about life. And sometimes those paths can take us down some really gnarly, awful roads. And I knew that I wanted nothing to do with like the bad things of this world to fulfill my life. And though I don't think surfing was a bad thing, I think surfing was something God put in my life as a passion to just enjoy the ocean and enjoy being creative on waves. And through surfing, I've had so many different opportunities. And through one-arm surfing, I've been able to share my story in a lot of unique ways. And being able to bring other people hope has been so encouraging. But back to your question of being angry at God, I really remember thinking, like, rather than being angry, I was like, why did you allow this to happen? But now, what do you have for me now? So, like, I spent a lot of, like, more of my thoughts on, like, what now, God? Like, what do you have for my life? Because this definitely wasn't what I had planned. Like, I had a perfect future in surfing, and that the one-arm part wasn't a part of it. So it was an adjustment, but I just prayed and asked God to guide me through this time. And thankfully, my family and friends were really supportive. And I believe that sometimes God does allow us to go through really hard times, and I believe he can bring good out of a lot of it.
Great, thank you.
Or all of it.
Why don't we go in the middle here, and then we'll go to this one. You have Mike, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kelsey McGregor. I'm a senior, and I was wondering if you can describe like your experience of like the best wave you've ever rode and where it was.
Oh, the best wave I've ever ridden? Well, this winter I had some amazing waves. And even surfing pregnant, like earlier on in my pregnancy, maybe the first like 5 months, I didn't feel pregnant while surfing. Once I was standing up on my board, I felt like so confident and really sharp in my surfing. I can't really like pinpoint a particular best wave, but just like the feeling after a really good wave, you just feel like so confident and able and just like in tune with like what your passionate and your ability is in surfing. And yeah, I just had like such a good winter. But one of my favorite waves in the last 2 years was in October. We did a trip to Tahiti, and I got to tow surf at Chopu, and I got some really good barrels. And like when you're in the barrel and you're just surrounded by the wave, and sometimes like you're so I'm like going this way in the barrel. Sometimes you're so deep you don't think you're gonna come out. But like I had this motto in my head that keep your eyes to the exit, and you never know, you could come out of this thing. And you just keep going. And I had some of those waves where I was not coming out, and then I managed to come out, and it was like so amazing. And you come out of this barrel and you're just like in another world, like this feeling of just extreme kind of I don't know, adrenaline rush and stoke, and yeah, it's a good feeling.
Great. Why don't we go over here?
I'm Isabella. I'm a junior. I was wondering, are you ever worried about the baby when you're surfing?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been kind of questioning that a little bit, because I surf pretty far into my pregnancy, and I'll probably surf when I get home. But once I'm home, I'll probably longboard and knee paddle, so you're not like so much pressure on the stomach. But that was one of the first things Adam and I looked up, was like the safety of the baby inside your stomach. And because there's so many different opinions out there, and a lot of people just don't even know, they just assume that it's not healthy for the baby if you're laying on it. But from what we learned, if I'm feeling pain, then I'm being hurt. But if I'm feeling pain, then the baby is not necessarily being hurt, because of the way the pocket the baby lives in is designed. It's like a water balloon inside of a water balloon. So if you try to punch that water balloon as hard as you can, you're not going to be able to get to the inside water balloon. So like they're saying, like if you got punched, like your baby is fine. It's you that got hurt, which is kind of a cool. I mean, it's awesome that the baby is pretty dang safe in there. And if Adam wasn't supportive of me surfing, then I might have been more hesitant. But he's like, well, if you feel fine, then keep surfing. So, yeah, I don't feel too worried about the baby. And like the one thing I would worry about is if I got held under for a long time and I pass out and like I'm not breathing, sort of thing, which I haven't put myself in situations where I'd be like that.
Right. One or two more questions, then I think the bell's going to ring. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Luke. I'm a junior. If you could go back in time and prevent the accident from ever happening, would you do it?
I would not prevent losing my arm. I think like there's just been so many amazing things, and being able to encourage other people in their hard times in life has been such an incredible part of my life, and just being able to share the love of God with others is priceless. And yeah, I look at my life now, and you know, beyond surfing, there's been this whole aspect of fame that's been thrust upon me, and not something that I chose. And that's been a whole nother challenge in itself, adjusting to that. And again, I'm so thankful for my family supporting me through that and adjusting to that and keeping me level-headed and grounded. And I have so much compassion for like full-on celebrities that like that's their life, because I see how challenging it can be at times. But yeah, I look at my life and I'm kind of in a sense thankful I lost my arm, as weird as that might sound, because I just see too much good that has come out of it. Though it hasn't always been easy or something I've necessarily wanted, it's been a good thing in the long run.
Great. That was a wonderful question. And with that, I know the bell's going to ring any second now, so we should just probably end it at that. I'm getting told we have one more important one up in the upper row.
Let's take it.
So let's do that. Go ahead, young man.
My name is Ella. I'm
trying to shut down Ella.
Go ahead. He couldn't see you.
Oh.
Say your name.
My name is Ella. I'm 7 years old, and my question is, was it fun working with the dolphins when you were in Dolphin Tale?
Oh, yeah. Great. Great question, Ella. Yesterday was National Dolphin Day, if you guys didn't know. It was so much fun being on the set of Dolphin Tale 2, and swimming with Winter was one of the coolest things I've ever done with another animal. And I'd never swam with dolphins. I'd petted one before, but being actually in the water with this dolphin, and she has no tail, but she's swimming with her prosthetic tail, which was really cool. And I loved when Winter would get really happy, her tummy would turn all really pink. So you'd like know that she's happy. And yeah, I don't know, they're such amazing creatures, and you can see how intelligent they are just by being around them. And They're just, yeah, it was an amazing experience. So if you ever get the chance to hang out with a dolphin, go for it.
All right. I believe we have a gift for Bethany for coming to speak to us today. You'd like to go ahead and present it?
Aw, thank you. You too.
On behalf of the Benjamin community, we'd like
it's not like that. No.
we'd like to thank you for coming here today and sharing your story with us.
Thank
It was
you.
very inspirational. Thank you.